با عرض سلام. جنرال مکگرگور خب یه جنرال بازنشسته امریکایی هستش و این روزا خیلی میره پادکست ها و مصاحبه‌های زیادی میده. خب ایشون دستی در کار داره، یعنی اطلاعات خوبی داره و این کار هست دیگه. از ایشون پیدا میکنم متخصص‌تر در رابطه با مسائل نظامی میشه مثلا کسی پیدا کرد. البته هستن کسای دیگه، ولی خب منظورم اینه که ایشون دستی در کار داره، متخصص هستن. ایشون یه مصاحبه داشتن دوباره همین یه چند ساعت پیش. من یه تیکه‌هاشو سوا کردم براتون زیرنویس گذاشتم در رابطه با نقش ترکیه و چه اتفاقی افتاده تو سوریه و اینا. یه چند دقیقه یه صحبت‌های ایشون رو گوش کنیم. یه قسمت دیگه این مصاحبه راجع به چین صحبت میکنن، قدرت نظامی چین. حالا اونم من بعد از این براتون میذارم.
Okay, so where do you think they're going to land with all of this? Are they going to stay on the side of the West, or are they going to join their Muslim brothers and say, we're going to fight back if you're going to be attacking us like this?
Well, if it were up to the Turkish people and the people who would be drafted into the Turkish army, they would be on the march tomorrow morning for Jerusalem.
Yeah.
But it's not up to them. And I think you've got to look at Mr. Erdogan. Mr. Erdogan is too clever by half. I usually compare him to a vulture that is sitting on top of a telephone pole overlooking the asphalt road. And he's waiting for roadkill to swoop in, get the roadkill, and then have a meal. That's what Erdogan has done in Syria. He brokered a deal between MI6, Mossad, the CIA, and his intelligence services to help destabilize and overturn the status quo in Syria. Then Mr. Erdogan, who always was behind ISIS with his intelligence forces and money and so forth, he helped to install this man Jolani, a former deputy head of ISIS and Al-Qaeda and so forth, into power. And all of this was done because it was judged to be in the mutual interest of the Turks and the Israelis, the British and the Americans, to establish this new terrorist state called Syria. And I say terrorist because that's what they are. They're killing Shiites, they're killing Alawites, they're killing Christians, Armenians, whatever. This is, and to see the President of the United States embrace this leader, Jolani, and say, well, he's a really impressive guy. He's a tough guy. I mean, what planet are you on? But that's what his Israeli masters want. This is something that Netanyahu wanted. So Netanyahu has gotten it, is now sitting in southern Syria. He's got his eyes on southern Lebanon, and the new Syrian government has its eyes on northern Lebanon. Now, what's going to happen? What happened in 1939 after the Nazis and the Soviets established a pact? Well, they carved up Eastern Europe between themselves. And it took 2 years, but 2 years later, finally, one of them struck first. Soviets were going to strike against the Nazis. That was coming. That's one of the reasons that Hitler ordered the advance. So what are we going to see? I think eventually you're going to see a falling out and see a war. And if Erdogan is removed, which is not impossible because he's not very popular at this time. Remember, they got, 100% inflation in some sectors? I mean, the economy is a catastrophe. He could be removed, and then everything could change very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to embrace the Iranians. But if you ask the average Sunni Muslim Turk who the enemy is, it's not Iran. It's Israel.
Yeah.
And you have a very, very fragile, unstable situation in Egypt. And Sisi right now is quietly turning away from us. He's not announcing it publicly because he likes the subsidies we pay him. But he's turning to China and Russia. And he's waiting to see what happens next. He doesn't want to end up being the only man fighting Israel. And the various elites in the Arabian Peninsula, in the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, these people are not very stable and they're not very confident. Their populations hate what the Israelis are doing. Yet they're playing ball because it's in the interest of the elites financially to do so with us. So the whole region is poised to explode. And the other thing to keep in mind is Iran is not just a huge part of BRICS, because it is. It is the soft underbelly of Russia. And it is the principal supply and repository of oil and gas for China outside of Eurasia. You put those things together and neither Moscow nor Beijing will allow us to pulverize Iran into submission. Not going to happen.
حالا در این قسمت مصاحبه این خانم کیم ازشون سوال میپرسه راجع به بودجه ارتش و اینا که میگه دو تا کشور رو نمیشه واقعا با بودجه نظامی مقایسه کرد که میتونن بگی کدوم قوی تره کدوم قوی تر نیست. با وجود این همه بخور و دزدی که داریم ما میبینیم، قیمت اجناس رو میبرن بالا، مثلا یه چکش $10 میفروشن $100 $200 به پنتاگون. خب خیلی فساد واقعا زیاده. یعنی با این وجود نمیشه اینا رو با هم دیگه مقایسهشون کرد، برای اینکه خب حالا شما داری میگی فلان کشور مثلا 200 میلیارد دلار هزینه بودجه دفاعیشه، امریکا 1 تریلیون دلار. ولی اگه بخوایم نگاه بکنیم بر فرض وقتی میبینیم اینا کلا 1/20 اونم با 1/20 همین پولایی که صرف میشه برای ارتش ما، یعنی دزدیاشو بخوام بزنیم کنار، میتونن همینو بخرن بذارن توی ارتششون. خب پس واقعا ما نمیدونیم اینا چقدر ارتششون قدرت داره و چی دارن. اینا راجع به این سوال میکنه. اینم شما نظر آقای مکگرگر رو گوش کنین، زیرنویس گذاشتم زیرش.
What do you think of China's military capabilities? How do we even know what sort of capabilities they have? Whenever I read anything, I'm always hearing about budgets, and I'm thinking, well, how can you possibly go based on budgets when we inflate the price of a hammer and a screw for our military budgets, and theirs is, they're paying 1/10 the price for all of the parts because they don't have contractors that are just milking the government, right? So how can you possibly go off of budget when they're able to create way more weapons off of such a smaller budget than ours? So how do we know what their capabilities actually are and how we would fare up against them?
Kim, you're 100% right. I'm so grateful that you said that. Most Americans do not understand that defense is not like going to Walmart. Oh, I need defense. I'm going to buy this off the shelf. Now I've got defense. Our defense establishment's got serious problems because it swims in too much cash. Mm-hmm. And too much cash promotes not just complacency and military strength and power, it also promotes graft and scams, and we've got plenty of that. So you're absolutely right. When it comes to China, I think we have to look at China and see China through the lens of where we were at the beginning of and then subsequently to the Second World War. The Chinese have built massive infrastructure that can be rapidly turned over to use in the private sector for military production. They have the largest manufacturing base in the world. Mm. That's where we were. Back in those times, we had built all sorts of factories and infrastructure during the 30s, and we were having problems getting people back to work. It's a long story. I mean, by 1939, Morgenthau testified. He was the Secretary of the Treasury and said, look, we've tried everything we can. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to get out of this depression. But they had built all of this infrastructure. So when the war begins, in fact, before the war began, once it becomes clear this is going to be a major global conflict, we turn to Henry Ford and we turn over an enormous factory to him and say, go build bombers. So we built thousands and thousands of bombers. Same thing with tanks. We just repurposed the infrastructure to do something else. The Chinese are in a position to do that now. Now, military power has changed. Being the arsenal is not enough. You can't just deluge your opponent in equipment and people. That won't work. We can't even get there. You're not going to get across the Pacific or the Atlantic at any great strength because of precision-guided missiles and submarines. They'll put you out of business. They'll let you come out of the harbor and then sink you the way the U-boats did for 2 years. So I think that we have to understand that Chinese military power is preeminently defensive. It's designed to prevent us from attacking them successfully. It's designed to keep us out of China. Now, they are building this BRICS business largely for commercial reasons, they and the Russians, but that can also become a de facto security alliance because everybody has an interest in protecting their lines of communication, their commerce from us. Now, why did they build all of the rail lines and roads and everything else all over Eurasia? Because we have this thing called the U.S. Navy. And the U.S. Navy can bottle up China. And it doesn't take a big surface fleet to do that. 5 or 6 attack submarines can bottle the whole place up in 48 hours. Nothing comes out, nothing goes in. If you try, you're going to be sunk. Mm-hmm. So the Chinese said, look, we're dealing with this submarine fleet that the United States has is damn near impossible. They go into deep water, thermocline protects them. We'll never get anything in or out. So what do? you build all of the rail and road connectivity. We've already seen the first train come from China all the way to Iran, to Tehran, and offload material, commercial goods. It's just the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be insulated from our maritime threat. And then, of course, that puts the Suez Canal not completely out of business, but certainly makes it a lot less attractive. That means that your waterways no longer constitute the true lever of power that they once did. Now, there's one exception right now that can't be fixed quickly, and that is the Persian Gulf. You come out of the Persian Gulf and you want to go to China, and we can stop that. But if we do, then we will be in a world war.
Mm-hmm.
No one should have any doubts that if the Chinese become embroiled in a war with us, that the Russians will not join them. They will, and vice versa.
Yeah.
We need to understand that.